For centuries, a massive philosophical classic has dominated Indian thought, but tracing how exactly a single forgotten medieval manuscript swelled into a colossal epic requires unpacking one of the most extensive literary revisions in history. The text is known as the Yoga Vāsiṣṭha. At roughly 29,000 verses, it is longer than the Ramayana. Over generations, it became a central reference for Advaita Vedanta practitioners, utilized specifically for its teachings on the illusory nature of the world. That reputation stood largely unchallenged until recent decades. Modern philologists, led by scholars Walter Slage and Jürgen Onader, began digging past the printed editions of the 19th century, searching for the physical origins of the text. Their search led them to early birch bark manuscripts written in the regional Śāradā script. By analyzing these fragile documents, the team formulated the Great Redaction hypothesis, arguing that the version known to the public was heavily modified over hundreds of years. The 29,000-verse version used in monasteries today is a rewrite. Beneath the layers of later expansion lies a much older, tightly constructed text. Its original author called it the Mokṣopāya. To understand the Mokṣopāya, we have to look at the isolated valley where it was born. 10th century Kashmir was geographically shielded by high mountain ranges, allowing a specific intellectual culture to thrive away from the influence of the southern Indian plains. Philological evidence pinpoints the creation of the Mokṣopāya to Pradyumna Hill in Srinagar. Here, around the year 950 CE, an anonymous author composed a public sermon meant to redefine how humans experience reality. The Mokṣopāya teaches Atyantava, the absolute non-existence of the material world. In this participatory universe, a central observer node sends out visual wavelines that construct physical geometry. The mind does not perceive an independent world, it generates it. Because the world is a projection of the mind, the author argued that one does not need to abandon society to find liberation. The Mokṣopāya was explicitly written for active Kshatriya kings and ruling administrators, people expected to maintain power and govern. A philosophy designed to help a monarch govern without anxiety directly contradicts the goals of a withdrawn ascetic. Yet, as the text aged, it would be claimed by the exact monastic traditions its author bypassed. Between the 11th and 14th centuries, the Mokṣopāya migrated out of the Kashmir Valley. Scribes transcribed the work from its native Śāradā script into Devanagari, ensuring it could be read across the broader subcontinent. During this transition, a Kashmiri scholar named Abhinanda created a 6,000-verse summary of the text. This condensed version, often called the Lagu Yoga Vāsiṣṭha, acted as the primary vehicle for the philosophy as it traveled south. Arriving on the Indian plains, the text entered a different intellectual ecosystem. It fell into the hands of orthodox institutions, where monks began to integrate its teachings into their own established traditions. We can see this shift in this logic tree. The original Kashmiri concept of Jivan Mukti led to active duty, but 14th century scholars redefined it. The connection to active life is severed, routing liberation strictly through monastic asceticism. To complete this alignment with Advaita Vedanta, later commentators scrubbed the text. They diffused terminology that sounded too Buddhist, inserted references to the Vedas, and added narrative framing emphasizing devotion. They took a manual written to keep kings on the throne and re-engineered it for those who have left society. The original Kashmiri philosophy was overlaid with a new orthodox agenda. By the late 16th century, the text caught the attention of the Mughal courts of Emperors Akbar and Shah Jahan. The rulers recognized the philosophical weight of the work and brought it into the centers of imperial power. The Mughal court maintained an expansive translation bureau. Under the direction of Nizam al-Din Panipati, a team of Persian-speaking scholars and Sanskrit pundits collaborated to bring the philosophy into the court's administrative language. In 1597, they finalized a translation of Abhinanda's abridged summary. The royal manuscript was illuminated and titled the Yoga Vāsiṣṭha. This linguistic choice by the Translation Bureau changed the title in the official record. By translating the name into Persian as Yoga Vāsiṣṭha, they attached the yoga prefix to a text that originally focused on philosophical inquiry rather than yogic practice. The Mughal court's patronage ensured the text's survival and accelerated its popularity. Yet in doing so, they locked in a misnomer, branding the Mokṣopāya as a treatise on yoga. In 1710, a monk named Ananda Bodhendra Saraswati published a commentary on the massive 29,000-verse version of the text. His work solidified the expanded manuscript as the authoritative masterpiece known today as the Yoga Vāsiṣṭha. Back in the Kashmir Valley, a different reality persisted. In the 18th century, the scholar Bhaskara wrote a commentary on the Śāradā manuscripts, quietly preserving the original, non-sectarian Mokṣopāya. By the 1700s, two distinct versions of the text existed simultaneously. The sprawling epic celebrated across the Indian plains had detached from the royal physics manual surviving in the mountains. The evolution from the Mokṣopāya to the Yoga Vāsiṣṭha involves two contrasting documents. The concise handbook for Kashmiri kings eventually became a 30,000-verse epic dedicated to renouncing the world. When modern researchers published the Great Redaction Theory mapping this edit, the academic reaction was divided. Traditionalist scholars strongly contested the idea that the text had been modified for sectarian reasons. Traditionalists argue that the manuscript has always supported dual paths of knowledge and ritual action. In their view, the overlapping layers of asceticism and world-building are not the result of a conspiracy, but a complex philosophical design present from the start. This debate exposes a friction in historical study. On one side, researchers rely on the physical evidence of birch bark manuscripts. On the other side is a living religious tradition that has derived spiritual value from the expanded text for centuries. This history shows how a single text can function as a living document, subject to centuries of revision and rebranding. The Mokṣopāya was not static. It was adapted to meet the needs of the eras it passed through. The Yoga Vāsiṣṭha went on to influence the religious landscape of the subcontinent. But beneath that cultural history, the Mokṣopāya remains the oldest recoverable layer of the work. While the manuscript's physical journey is now mapped, the practical logic of its internal world remains to be explored. Why does a 10th century manual on the projection of reality still matter today? We'll map that out next time.